So the Balagan is back. And this is a new Balagan that we haven't talked about in the past. Yes, we've talked about Syria. Yes, we've talked about Lebanon. Yes, we've talked a lot of different aspects, but we have not talked about this particular Balagan. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. It's a Balagan that connects Syria, Damascus, and a weird religion called the Druze. Not the Jews, the Druze. And this is where we're going today. My name is David Tal. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a former IDF officer. While I'm actually still I got my uniform, but I don't have a command. I'm a tank commander by trade. I'm also a tour guide in Israel and a lifelong soldier in the battle for Israel, and particularly in the battle for truth. And that is the main battle. That's the main war that Israel is fighting right now. Today, we're talking about this new Balagan that has popped up. And it's weird that Balagans just come up like mushrooms after the rain. Balagan, mix up, mess, everything that doesn't go according to plan, things that get topsy-turvy. It's a Yiddish word, it's a Russian word, it's a Persian word, actually, and it's a beautiful word because it's completely contextual. So you're going to be hearing about the Balagan, and if you've been following the news lately, you've been hearing about a Balagan in Syria. And the Balagan in Syria has been involving a people called the Druze. And you have heard that Israel has bombed Damascus. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be connecting all of this together, finding out what's really happening, why does it matter to Israel, and how does all of this connect to biblical prophecy? How does all of this connect to the spiritual warfare that is going on? But first, I want to go personal and talk about a group of people called the Druze. We'll go a little bit deeper into the explanation, but they are a minority in Israel, and my personal experience is I've served with the Druze soldiers. I've had Druze soldiers, meaning soldiers, citizens of Israel, that are part of the Druze minority that serve in the IDF. I've served alongside the Druze. I've had officers above me that were Druze. Some of the best intelligence officers, by the way, very well, because they're fluent in Arabic and they understand the Arab mindset. They're also fearless in combat. I mean, they're crazy. And by the way, sometimes a little bit too crazy. I've always respected their loyalty, and I've always respected their courage, and I've deeply respected their strong sense of honor. The Druze chose to stand with us. In 1948, they chose to become a part of the story of Israel and become a part of the Jewish state. But there are Druze also in Lebanon, there's Druze also in Syria, and in Syria, it's a completely different story. So let's start off with who are the Druze? What are the Druze? And why are they in a big Balagan in Syria? The Druze are a weird religion, a religious group that actually split off from Islam around the 11th century, and they kind of believe in a lot of weird things. They believe in reincarnation. They have a secret religion. They have all kinds of teachings. Not even all of the Jews know everything about the religion. Only a small people have all of the distinct knowledge about it. But they are a very distinct minority, and they're primarily found in Lebanon, Syria, Israel, and a little bit in Jordan. And there's a lot of Druze all over the world. The way I tend to explain to the Druze to people is that the Druze relate to Islam the way Mormons or Mormonism or what do you call them, LDS, relates to Christianity. It came out of Islam, but went in a very, very different direction. And as a result of that, broke off completely from the core religion. They are persecuted by the Muslim majority in the Middle East, which is why they tend to live in far-off mountainous areas. They live in the Carmel Mountains in Israel. A lot of you who have been on tour in Israel have met them in the Carmels. They live on the Golan Heights. They live in the Shuf Mountains in Lebanon. The Druze are famously loyal to the state that they live in. They're loyal in Lebanon, they're loyal in Syria, and they are very, very loyal in Israel. In Israel, they are part of our country, they're part of our government, they're part of our military. But in Syria, for instance, they tended to support the Syrian regime. And when the Hafez al-Assad and Bashar al-Assad were in power, the Assad dictatorship, they actually supported the Assad dictatorship. The foreign minister of Bashar Assad was a Druze. I mean, we're talking about them integrating into the politics in Syria, though they are intermarried in all the different places they live. Meaning, there's Druze that marry Druze from Lebanon, and there's Lebanese Druze that marry Israelis and Syrians. So they're all it's small. They tend to intermarry. So you'll see very few mixed Druze in other religions, but they are very, very loyal and very, very fun, and their food is very good, and their hospitality is amazing. They serve in the military. They are elected to Knesset. They're known for their hospitality and their patriotism. But because of the persecution, they have a very secretive and guarded faith. They live in way out places, which is why this is connected to what's going on now. The latest Balagan starts with the fact that Syria is a broken state. The former Al-Qaeda, ISIS, wacko that has now managed to take over the Syrian government and overthrow the former regime, okay, Julani is his name, is trying to unify Syria under his rule. Now remember, they're Islamic fundamentalists. They're one level above ISIS, but now he is the government in Syria. And like everything else, he's trying to bring the different sects together, the different sectorial religious minorities together. But Islam doesn't know how to live with other minorities. It only does so out of force and out of power. And just like when the United States took over Iraq and overthrew the Saddam Hussein government, then the Iraqi factions started killing each other and massacring each other in huge numbers. This is what's happening now. The Druze in Lebanon live mostly in the south, and they're being attacked now by the Bedouins, who have a classical, traditional kind of adversity with the Druze living in the south. The Druze themselves are probably about 800, 900,000 people. They live on the southern part of Syria, but not up against the Israeli border. If they did live up against the Israeli border, it would be completely different. They live in an area that's called the Mountain of the Druze, okay, in Syria. And the Druze in Syria are under Israel's moral protection, not just strategically, but spiritually. You see, we feel that, like us, they've been a persecuted minority, and we take seriously what God told us in Leviticus. I think it was Leviticus 19, that when a stranger, an alien, a different person dwells with you in your land, you shall not persecute him and you shall not wrong him. You shall love him as yourself, for you were also strangers, aliens in the land of Egypt. And we take that seriously. That's why the Arabs living in Israel, and a lot of people don't know that 20% of the Arabs, of the population of Israel, is Arab Muslims, have the same rights as we have. That's why the Druze who are living in Israel have the same rights as we have. And here's the connection. We believe that the Druze are similar to us, the Jews. We were persecuted. Nobody stood up for us. And even when we were mass murdered, the world was silent. What's been happening in Syria for the last couple of weeks, and specifically during the last week, has been a terrible ordeal in Syria. By the way, very interesting. We're talking about at least 250, maybe even more, of Druze that were killed inside their towns and inside their area in Syria. And I haven't heard anybody in the world standing up for them. We've stood up for them. And Israel, also because of the connection that we have with the Druze in Israel, and also because of the fact that we see what's going on the other side of the border and we don't want to accept that. Also, for the fact that there's a strategic element that there's a pro Israel minority sitting not far from the border on the southern part of Israel, not far from Damascus. For all of those reasons, Israel has stood up for the Druze. And we have told the Syrian government, the Syrian military, that they shall not step in. They should not step in, and they should stop allowing the Bedouins in the southern part of the country to attack the Druze. We've threatened them. And when they did not listen and they did not take that, and they allowed more Druze to be massacred, both in the neighborhood on the southern part of Damascus and on the mountain of the Druze, Israel went in and bombed the military headquarters in downtown Damascus. And what I'm trying to say is Israel stands up for the minorities. Israel stands up for the people who are being massacred. And again, this is us saying, wait a minute. We need to put our money where our mouth is. But I can't help but make the biblical connection, because here's what Isaiah 17 says: behold, Damascus is taken away from being a city. And it's there. It's happening. Ezekiel, you have tread on my holy mountain. And the Druze are a holy mountain according to them. And again, this is Islam. This is the fundamental Islam. This is the crazy Islam that is actually standing up and pushing up against reality, is pushing up against rationality, it's pushing up against morality. And this is the situation that is going on right now. According to what I just now saw, it just came upon my feed, the United States of America is really, really worried, because if you turn this or connect this to the geopolitical system or geopolitical situation, President Trump, in his attempt to create this mega deal, peace in the Middle East, everybody is sitting around the campfire singing Kumbaya, has this idea that we can reach an agreement with Syria, with the new regime in Syria, which is why he has sidelined the Turks in Syria, meaning Turkey had large influence over the overthrow of the former government. He has sidelined them. He is supporting the new Syrian government with Julani, and he is actually saying, you will be a government, the United States will support you. They've taken off the sanctions, and he's hoping that this will be a positive regime. And there's even talk of some kind of a normalization with Israel. The thing is, Israel can't normalize if the Druze, who are family members of the Druze in Israel, are being massacred in Syria. And you get the complication of that situation. And that is why the president of the United States has gotten into this personally to say, we want this to settle down, telling Julani, keep your forces out of the Druze villages, telling Israel to settle down and not escalate the situation. So this is a political, military, geopolitical game of chicken to see who is going to win. One of the things, though, I need you to understand, the Druze didn't attack anybody. It's the Arab fundamentalists who are using the fact that they are now in power in Syria that are going and attacking the different minorities. This is similar to what happened with the Yazidis in Iraq. I don't know if you remember the stories of Yazidi girls being sold as sex slaves all over Iraq. And what I'm trying to say is, this is Muslim fundamentalism that is actually pushing up against the minorities, and Israel is not going to allow that to happen. But we see it again and again and again in other places. So that is the situation. It seems like it's settled down. It seems like the Syrian regime is willing to hold back its fundamentalist aspects in order to deal with this situation and not to come to a blowing war or an actual war with Israel. And I'm bringing this to you because I want you to understand what is going on. And I want you to understand that as far as we're concerned, the Druze are worth standing for. And if it gets worse, and this is a weird thing that I'm kind of thinking about, if this gets worse and the situation gets worse, Israel might go further and deeper into southern Syria and actually take over a piece of southern Syria in this connection. Now, let's tie this together with the whole situation, because what I'm hearing is Israel wants to annex parts of Syria. Israel wants to conquer parts of Lebanon. Israel wants to conquer Gaza, and we don't want to conquer Syria. We don't want to conquer Lebanon, and we don't want to conquer Gaza. I've been in Gaza. I know what this is. But Israel, after the 7th of October last year, cannot allow for a threat to grow and fester on our borders, and we will not take it into consideration. We can't let this happen. So if the Hezbollah in Lebanon threaten us from Lebanon, we will stay in Lebanon to make sure that they're not a threat. If the Syrians threaten us in the northern part of Syria, we will annex, we will take pieces of Syria to make sure that they're not a threat. That is the change in policy. That's the change in dynamics. That's a change in mentality that has happened in the Middle East after everything that's happened in the last 2 years. And I have to say that President Trump is a main reason that Israel can allow itself to say, we will not agree to any kind of threat. We haven't talked about the Houthis in the south, but that is something that will have to be taken care of. That is the situation in the north. And I think the fact that this chaos that is going on in Syria, the fact that there are massive amounts of people that are being persecuted and attacked in Syria, and the world is quiet, speaks louder than anything else. But I want to say this, and this is something that I'm going to start repeating as we go from place to place. What I want to say is thank you. Thank you for the Muslims who are giving Israel another chance to show the world who we really are, who are giving the Jews another chance to show the world what our values are, who are giving us another chance to show what God's people actually are. And this is just something else that I find fascinating. Look at what Israel's doing. We're standing up for a minority that is being persecuted in the most horrific manner. And we're looking at it across the border, and we are not allowing it to happen. This is who Israel is. But the world doesn't see it like that. Which brings me to the other part of this story. And again, I find it fascinating that how this ties together. The ceasefire hostage deal that we're dealing with in Gaza. Again, Israel is being blamed for going into Gaza to take over Gaza, to kill Palestinians. We have no need, no want, and no reason to kill Palestinians. We want our hostages back. We did not start this. But the negotiation is still going on. The situation is fragile because the negotiation is talking right now about a ceasefire of about 6 to 8 weeks, where some of the hostages are released, mostly the women and the elderly. And some of the hostages are released on our side, and thousands of hostages, by the way. They're going to release 8 hostages, maybe 10. And we're going to release 1,000 prisoners and terrorists from the prisons. But in the meantime, while this is happening, there will be negotiations for a permanent deal. Israel has agreed to this in principle. It has agreed to give up pieces of Gaza that we have conquered, including strategic pieces along the border with Egypt, which is the main problem. The border with Egypt is the main area where things come in and go out, underground, underneath the actual border. So the Egyptians have a fence, have a wall, and have a big defensive posture on the border. But there's been tunnels that have been going back and forth underneath. So we put up a barricade, and we have cleared the space on the Gaza side of the border. And I think we've talked about this in the past. The route that goes along the border with Egypt is called the Philadelphia corridor, and Israel is saying we will stay there in any future agreement. We will not allow the Gaza Strip to be connected to Egypt and allow Egypt to put the tunnels, the illegal tunnels underneath, to push in arms and everything in again. So this is what Israel is saying. the Hamas is not agreeing to the ceasefire right now. It is saying it's negotiation and stalling for time. It's demanding all kinds of things, but it's not agreeing. And I think that the reason that they're not agreeing because this is the last card they have to play. And Hamas is demanding a full withdrawal first, everything out of Gaza, full withdrawal, and a promise that this will be the end of the war. They're only willing, remember, they're only willing to release 10 hostages, okay? And they're not willing to release the rest of the hostages, but they're saying that we will not deal, we will not reach an agreement until there is a full end to the fighting. Israel cannot agree to that. We cannot agree that Hamas will be left in power at the end of this war. So there's a lot of maneuvering. Okay, so if Hamas doesn't want to reach an agreement, if Hamas cannot reach an agreement with Israel, if we cannot end this war with an agreement that is takes in consideration that Hamas will leave, then what is the situation? And one of the options is Israel conquers the Gaza Strip completely, puts it under military jurisdiction, and deals with it. There's a new negotiation that I heard about yesterday that is talking about, again, moving some of the people out of Gaza to other Muslim countries. There's talk about moving them to Libya, moving them to Indonesia, and I think Ethiopia. But I don't know what's going to happen. And again, that is Hamas giving up everything that they've been fighting for the last 70 years. So I don't know. A deal could happen in weeks or it could collapse tomorrow. Israel wants its hostages back. The war would end tomorrow if Hamas gave its hostages back and said, we're not going to fight anymore. But that is the situation that we are in right now. To make the Balagan more complex, the political situation in Israel is very complex. The coalition that is actually being held together by Benjamin Netanyahu and other mostly right-wing political parties is unraveling because of the Orthodox Jews not willing to serve in the military. But I'm not going to go into that right now. That's a whole big subject in itself that I want to explain next time or next video that we're putting up. The next video that we will be putting up will be going into Israel's political situation, how the politics work, what Benjamin Netanyahu is doing, what would happen if the government does fall and we go into some kind of election, how that works in Israel, and let you get a big understanding about what that means. I have a request. Since the next one will be talking about Israeli politics, if there's anything you want me to address directly or any questions you want to ask, leave them here in the comments here. And as I prepare the next video, we will be going into that. And again, like always, I love your comments. I love your reactions. Please, please, please give us a thumbs up, ring the bell, subscribe to this, let other people know this. We are putting this up in order for people to know what is actually happening in Israel. So please subscribe and share as much as possible. In the meantime, me and Christy are going to different churches. We're going to be in a conference in Santa Barbara in 2 weeks. We're going to be speaking in churches about what's going on in Israel. And we're spending a lot of our time in connecting to different opportunities in Israel for support of Israeli soldiers, what's going on, Israeli ministries, meaning Christian ministries in Israel. And if you want to be a part of that, connect to Gijon Springs. Gijon Springs is a ministry that was started by Jeff and Karen Johnson, and they started this before they left Calvary Chapel Downey. And we actually bring things together and we support. We're doing an amazing work with some widows of soldiers that fell in battle, putting together fun weekends for them. We're doing amazing work with the families of soldiers that are in reserves. And in this case, a tank company and somebody from our side went out to visit them and see what's going on. It looks like I will be back in Israel in September, so I'll be going out to visit and connect to that, maybe actually get on the tank. But what they're doing, what we're talking about is things that we're doing for the families of the men and women that are in reserves. I will also be interviewing one of the widows that lost her husband in a tank in Gaza in the beginning of the war. So, again, if you want to ask something, if you want to address something, please leave it in the comments. And if you want to be a part of Gijón Springs, click the QR code that you see right here or go to gijonsprings.com and you can connect to everything that we do. You can actually support me and Christy directly if you want to do that in Gijón Springs. And wow, a lot of Balagan going on. Pray for Israel. This is David Tal because we are the Balagan Connection. Hope to see you soon.